Thank you so much for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome. And please do share my recording and my social media handles with anyone that you feel is going to benefit from this recording. We are going to carry on talking about youth crime, and we are going to focus mainly on the family dynamics, the environment that the child comes from, how it plays a part, maybe a contributing factor to youth crime. We don't know, but I've got guests in the studio who are going to help me with that and help you understand, as well as parents, where you can actually correct the wrongs that you've made as a parent. We are not perfect as parents, but every day we learn and we try to do better. And joining me in the studio with the already two guests that I had before is Stephen Akinsanya. He's a barrister. He's a barrister with a modern approach to independent practice with over 20 years experience at the Bar of England and Wales. And Stephen is passionate about the youth. He's been a mentor for over 20 years. That's why he's so passionate, and he's been going around London the whole month of August, trying to help parents and trying to actually speak to the youth that crime is definitely not a fashion. So thank you so much, Stephen, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, Pastor Martin and Boy Wonder.
Thank you.
It says that the old adage that it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
And I've often asked myself, yes, it takes a village, but not in this particular culture that we are in. Because for a village or for a community to raise a child, you've got to understand the child, you've got to understand the child's culture, you've got to understand where the child comes from, you've got to understand the child as a person for you to be able to extend a helping hand to that youth or to that child. Do you agree with that?
Very much.
Yeah, I do also. I mean, I think part of the issue is that the culture's been erased. So that need to raise the child within a village background has been erased, but we need to reintroduce it because that's what's missing.
And how do we reintroduce that?
I think by claiming back the good things about our culture, even though we are living perhaps in a Western or English society, there are core things in our culture that we should not pass over. The Asian culture doesn't do it.
They maintain that.
The Chinese culture doesn't do it. But we, for some reason, have abandoned that, or certainly let it slip. And certainly in my experience in the job that I do, I've seen the results of it. So a lot of the children that pass through my hands in the criminal justice system have no father or no male role model at all.
And why do you think that is mainly in the black community that we've let the culture slip? Lack of appreciation of our culture?
I think so, and a lack of parents. Those of us who are here, I was born here, but those of us who are here, not teaching our children the culture.
The culture.
And so they are almost lost because they say, where do we fit in?
So if the parent is lost, of course, the parent can't even teach a child.
Yes.
What do you say, Martin?
It is a kind of like a domino effect. Again, I want to go back to the root, and that root, culture, is the very beginning of how it all begins. The marriage. Marriage is supposed to denote the security of a community, and I'm talking about a traditional marriage. And my brother mentioned the cultures that have managed to survive the erosion of today's modern society's culture. Again, you find that marriages in those communities, by and large, have kind of like been preserved at a much greater extent than in other cultures where that has suffered. And that institution, if we go back to the root of securing it, the sacredness of it, that's where we will be in position to hone that culture and bring it forth through. I think we need to go back to those roots and make sure that we operate in the way we're supposed to operate and egg each other on.
And going back to the roots, does this mean running workshops, running seminars? I mean, doing speaking engagements? How do we do that? Because we really need to help the parents that are out there.
And to be honest, when I've studied seminars, workshops, and many things that are being talked about in our society today, the issue of marriages, whether Christian, whether non-Christian, the issue of marriages has been not talked about as much. And we need to go back to being more intentional in every aspect. Whether you're a lawyer, as a barrister, whether you're a young man engaging young people, whether you're a pastor, whether you're a teacher in school, we need to teach these things in school. These are some of the ways we'll preserve our community. A community that is not preserved is a community that will lose a generation.
Absolutely, and
So-
that is exactly what is happening.
And this generation needs to be preserved. And if you go back to scriptures again, from the very beginning, God relates the church to a bride and groom. It all starts there. He said, I'll come back for my bride, the church, which is the people of God, not people in buildings praying, but
No.
everybody under the sun. He will come back for them as a bride. What does it mean? He's looking familiar, he's looking communal, he's looking family, he's looking one culture. So if we take that very aspect and drill it down to our individual societies, we need to go back to that place through sensitization.
Mandem, what do you want to contribute to that?
Everything just has to be super practical, and there also has to be some sense of ownership in our community as well.
Yes.
Young people growing up, especially me, for example, I was always surrounded by my family members who owned businesses. Therefore, I knew that once I'd finished school, there was somewhere I can go to bide my time during the summer holidays, during the clearing process for university. There was always somewhere that
A safe environment.
safe environment, but also someone that I could identify with, you know,
And look up to.
and look up to. We need more of those in the black community. We need more of those in our culture. A young man has to be, regardless of whether his father's in the picture or whatnot,
Or not.
he has to have a role model, whether it's the mechanic, whether it's the person working in the studio, someone that looks like him, someone who can relate to him, someone who
Understands
owns that
him.
business and understands him and says, do you know what, I'm going to give you a practical job. I'm going to give you a job. I'm going to give you a chance. Like you said, every other community has that avenue. We need ours, and if we have it, we haven't got enough. We've got the role models there, but role models can only talk. We need practical action. We need to put these children through their paces. We need to see their skill set. We need to see what they can offer us, and if they can't, let's hone that. Let's take them out of a comfort zone, like their bedroom or just on the corners, and then put them in a factory. Let's put them in underneath a car bonnet. Let's put them in a recording studio. Let's put them behind the till. Let's start getting their creative juices flowing in practical places. And I'm not just talking workshops as well. I'm talking something that is going to be beneficial for them past a 6-week period.
It's just like now that they're on holiday, the summertime holidays. I mean, somebody can volunteer and say, you know what, I can take maybe 2 youth to
Yes.
come and work with me.
We have, like I said earlier on in the segment, we have a pop-up shop in Croydon, Fashion Meets Music pop-up. And it basically, again, showcases young talent and young musicians. And every time we have young people coming in asking, have you got any apprenticeships going on? Have you got any work experience? We will always gladly say yes. Give us your CV. Let's check your background. Who are your parents if you're underage? Let's let them know. And we want to get them in as soon as possible. No
And the
talking,
thing is-
no hoops to jump over. I want to see a young person in my store as soon as possible, because I know if I leave it one extra day, one extra hour, somebody who has
The wrong motive.
ulterior motives might take them down another path instead.
And also the thing is, once the youth has provided you with the CV, even though you personally cannot support them, you can actually pass it on.
Yes.
Signpost them to somebody who can help them.
That's it.
And that is exactly what we need to do. So I'm speaking out to anyone, any entrepreneur, business person, or you don't even have to own a business. But if you own, you work in an industry whereby you're able to offer some kind of an internship or apprenticeship, or just a work placement, so that a youth can get away from school and go somewhere where they can identify and actually develop their skills and try to identify some of the skills that they still do not have, but at least they have some mentorship.
Yeah. I think some of the most basic skills young people need to acquire is it's very grassroots. It's punctuality and it's attendance.
Yeah.
And it's manners. If you just
Accountability
have
as well.
accountability, if you have those three, if you know you're going to be early for something, I already want you in my establishment.
That's right.
If I know that you're going to clean floors as well as speak to customers, I already want you in my establishment. If I know that you can say your please and thank yous and sorry,
Customer service.
that's another thing that I already want you. You need very basic skill sets to be given a chance in a lot.
And that is very basic.
Yeah.
Very, very basic. Stephen, what can you add on to that, please?
Well, no, I think this is why mentorship is important, because young people who have a particular interest in whatever field, even if you directly as the mentor are not the person who can do it, through the network of mentoring, you can pass them to the right person who will teach them the skill sets that you've referred to, learning about what's entailed in the job or the particular area of expertise. And that's why, certainly in my field, with mentorship, I know it works because of the number of children who've come through my mentoring have not necessarily been lawyers, but I've taught them the core things that you need in any walk
Any
of
industry,
life.
yeah.
And taking that forward, it's that drive, that hunger, that willingness to learn, that willingness to engage, which is something that young people struggle to do these days, certainly because they're always on their phones.
Exactly,
They
social
need to
media.
learn to communicate with
Yeah.
people and come out of their comfort zones, as you said,
No,
and I
actually-
believe sorry,
go on,
I
go on.
believe with that exact same mentorship, having you on their CV, I'm guaranteeing you they're able to now
Oh, absolutely.
not just jobs but also just education as well. You know, they're able to apply for certain places in college and university and so on. So men like you, Steve, are an attribute to the community.
A role model.
Pastor, you as well. The fact that you're doing it within a congregation, those are role models, but they're so practical. They're giving practical, solutions to problems. I said earlier, there's a lot of we need to raise awareness. We need to raise awareness,
Which we have done.
We've done that a million times. I call it the comic relief solution, the comic relief syndrome, where every year we've got to raise money for Africa. We've got to raise awareness. But
How long do we keep
how long
raising
can
the
we
money?
do that for before we say we've done this, now let's move on to something else? I believe in this climate we can now start being practical.
Now I want to move on to the home environment. Okay. Unfortunately, there are a lot of youth that do not have two family members in the house. They have maybe either a mother or a father, or if they have both, maybe because of the working culture. You find the mother is coming in, the dad is going out. The dad is coming in, the mother is going out. The child is at home in the morning getting ready for school on their own. Both parents are not at home. They come back from school, the parents are not at home, so they're doing whatever it is. Maybe they don't even come home straight away. They're hanging around with their friends, wrong group. By the time they get home, it's too late for them to do their homework. They're running behind with their homework.
Yes.
There are certain things that we cannot change, but at least we can advise.
Yeah. I think what I can contribute to that is that in raising a generation, sacrifices have got to be made.
That's the word.
The key word is sacrifice. For every accountability and stewardship comes sacrifice. And I'll speak from a very personal example. My wife was in investment banking for close to 10 years before we got married. And when we got married, decided to have children, we made a conscious decision that in the infancy of these children, one of us has got to
To be
step
home.
back. So my wife had to leave her investment banking job on her own accord, thankfully. She had to leave that job and said, I'm going to invest and immerse myself in these children.
Yeah.
And then we had to make adjustments in terms of income, adjustments in terms of expectations, and we agreed on that. And for the first 5, 6, 7 years,
7 years.
of our children, my firstborn is 7, those 7 years, she's been a stay-at-home mom. We had got to make those adjustments to invest in those children. And I'm not saying everybody else should give up their job, but there are sacrifices that can be made for us to secure our generation.
Absolutely.
And that's where these communities that you talked about, Brother Stephen, have actually got an edge. And I want to touch on the point of communal and what we call collective accountability. Family comes in, a brother comes in half the afternoon, an uncle comes in from wherever, and then you egg each other on. That's how we need to go back to those basics.
We need to go back to those
But
basics.
sacrifice and accountability.
So
are
glad
key.
the pastor said that,
Yeah.
because on numerous occasions when I've spoken, I've talked about sacrifice, and there must be something true about this, because likewise in my personal circumstances, my wife works in the investment banking field, but I decided that I was going to take my foot off the gas of my practice. And so whilst many of my colleagues have excelled and perhaps have reached a level of the profession that maybe I should have been at now at 25 years, I decided when my two sons were born that I didn't have sons not to be around, not to be at every event, not to be involved in their schooling. And I sacrificed the amount of work that I was given because that was my primary function. And I tell people regularly, as good a lawyer as I may or may not be, the best job that I will ever have is raising my sons to be
You know what?
decent men.
It's very true. It's very, very true. Because in fact, I've actually chosen the best guest to come in today. If I can just echo on that, that's the same thing me and my husband did.
Wow.
You know, the first 7 years, I had to work part-time. Made sure in the morning I was there for the children.
Yes.
When they come back from school, I'm there for them. For the first 7 years, it's hard. Trust me, it is hard, but money is not everything.
No.
You know? When I see my boys now all grown up with good manners, good characters, you know, then I know we've made the right sacrifice.
I can only commend the three of you, because you know, in this day and age, a lot of people see that capital as being the only form of you know, progression and success. And you know, we all see it in, you know, in certain news clips where there's well-to-do families who have had terrible things happen to them, and it had nothing to do with money, you know, or members of the family do terrible things, and again they were surrounded with money. So perfect example sometimes of where that means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. You know, the investment really is in the children who will be looking after you and will have other children to be looking after them as well.
And also I think another thing that as a parent I would encourage other parents to do is, okay, not everyone can afford to take their child to maybe a grammar school or to a fee-paying school. Even just an ordinary school, make sure at least you get a tutor for your child.
Yes.
Because most children now talk in slangs. And when you watch, I don't know whether you guys watch the program on BBC Two, how to get into the elite system. You recorded it. I'm going to send you guys the link. You need to watch it on BBC Two. Now, for you to get in that elite group, there are certain criteria that you've got to meet.
Yes.
And talking in slangs is not one of them.
No.
Dress code is not one of them. Character-wise, you know, you've got to present yourself in a certain way. And unfortunately, some of our black youth don't do that. And what really takes me off is when you see a black youth walking with pants, and I'm wondering, are you going to school or are you? I mean, you know, as parents of boys, I would not. My boys actually know they can't do that.
Yeah.
They can't. You know.
You know, one thing I want to add on to that, you've raised a very valid point in terms of bringing a tutor on. But I'm very much a firm believer as well of the whole aspect of imitation. You know, there is affirmation, there is impartation, then there is imitation, and then there is experience. So you start off with the affirmation of the identity, and then you impart that spiritual authenticity and identity, and then there is after the impartation, there's the imitation. Imitate me as I imitate Christ, and then there's the experience. You walk into the experience of what you have seen. So children imitate what they see. They imitate the manners at home. So, you know, Paul mentioned something very interesting. He says that, you know, I'm saying these things to you, and there are so many instructors, but there are very few fathers. Therefore, I have begotten you in the gospel of Christ. He begets him in the gospel of Christ. And then he says to them, imitate me. Then later on, the experience comes. I'm sending you my son, Timothy. Timothy has imitated and experienced. Now I'm sending him to you that you might see the way to go. And if we begin to consciously make an effort, every parent out there, I'm going to consciously stop this manner. I'm going to consciously be around. I'm going to consciously teach. Children will imitate. And that's how we can then harness our community.
That's very true. And it's the consciousness, because everything we have to do, we have to be conscious about it.
Absolutely.
A lot of time we are operating on the unconscious. You know, when you wake up in the morning, you're operating in the unconscious mind.
Yes.
You're not actually saying, oh, I have to get out of bed and do this. No. But if we actually consciously be intentional and be in the present, be in the moment
Yes.
of our children when they're there for us,
Yes.
I believe we can raise a generation of young black children who we will be proud
let's
of.
change the dynamics of this particular culture right now, because it's been happening for over
It's
I'm
so
sure
long.
close to a decade now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's been progressively getting worse. So it starts from anyone who's having a child now, anyone who's raising young 5-year-olds now. You know, you may not think it's going to start until they're in their teens, but it really does start.
It starts
It
now.
starts now.
Yeah.
It does that now. Absolutely.
Okay. Now you all have about a minute or so. Okay? And just speak to the parent from the heart. Speak to them. Whatever it is that you have to them. Speak to the parent, the youth, and let them learn from you. Floor is open.
I would say one of the things that drives me is that in that moment when the child is born, there is jubilation, there is excitement, and I cannot believe that it's their destiny, some 17 or 20 years later, to be put in the ground without even fulfilling that destiny. And I believe that youth were each wonderfully and fearfully made, and there is a need and a desire in every person to find out what that unique skill is that they've been given, so that they can impart it, use it to bless others and leave a legacy. And that's why I do what I do, because I think it's in every youth, it's in all of us, and it's incumbent on me to share that message, to get the youth to understand that dying on our streets, ending up in prison, is not your destiny.
Not at all. Not at all.
One thing I would say is to the parents is please do support your children. There's a lot of very creative children out there and who have a creative mindset. They may not have the outlet and they may be looking for that outlet. Let them find that outlet, support them in finding that outlet. There's a lot of creative people out there who would and will make it with the support of their parents. There's nothing like the support of your parents. The tutors help, the teachers do, your friends and family, you know, and other members of the family. But if your mum and dad can actually say, do you know what? You want to be a painter, you want to be a fashion designer, cool, go for that. You don't want to do this particular job, that's fine. I'll support you in this particular one. August is coming up, which means grades are coming in from school. And if it's not the right grades that they or you expected as a parent, please support that. You know, there's nothing like the support of family members with their children.
That's very true. Mr. Martin?
I just want to appeal and encourage, especially parents that have broken up, or families where parents do not live together, just to remember the whole concept of sacrifice. That it may not have worked out between the two of you, but this child has a chance if you take that back step and make those painful sacrifices. There could be also parents who are on the cusp, literally on the cusp of breaking up or walking separate ways, to consider. There is a place in your heart to reconcile, because you might secure a generation just by you reconciling your differences and purposing to raise these children the way they should be. I want to end with a quote that says, you train a child the way to go.
That's right.
And when they grow old, they do not depart from it. That is in Proverbs 22, verse 6. And I also want to say a prayer to the parents out there, especially those parents who think that they have given up. It has gone horribly wrong. They feel that they have lost it. It is never too late. God can redeem anything.
And
There's
restore.
nothing impossible. There is absolutely nothing impossible. And I also want to speak a word over this nation. We are entering a generation, we are entering a prophetic time where there's going to be a reconciliation of sons and fathers, where the institution of family is going to return to its place. And I pray in the name of Jesus that this day shall come and we shall see it. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You know what? Presenting this show sometimes is heartbreaking, and today is one of those days whereby, as a parent, and I'm speaking to you parents, whether it's a single parent or it's a two-parent family, please, like Pastor Martin said and my guest said, sacrifice. Money is not everything. Money can only answer so much, and sometimes money cannot redeem what the society has already destroyed in your child. You have the opportunity, you have the time right now. There are resources in place. Do get in touch with our guests if they can help in any way where you're struggling. Do not suffer alone. Do not think that, oh, if I go and talk to somebody, that means you're the only one. No, not at all. There are a lot of parents out there who are struggling. And we are sitting here advising, we are not saying that our children are perfect.
No.
Not at all. They're not perfect, because I believe there's no one who is perfect. But we have learned. We have learned and we have gained experience from other people as well, and put that in our children, and we want to impart that into you. So please do speak up and do get help. And I'm speaking to the youth. If you are a youth and you're watching this program, I want you to reflect on your behavior. I want you to reflect and try and find it in your heart. What is it that you're doing that is hurting your parents? You were born on this earth with a purpose, a God-given purpose, to leave a legacy, to leave an impact. And I believe hanging around the wrong group of people is not your purpose. That is not why you're here. So try and think of why you were born. You might come from a dysfunctional home, but you can change. You can change your story. You can rewrite your destiny. And by God's grace, I know you can do that. You know, we've all come from challenges. And I believe it's going through challenges that you can actually become stronger. You can believe in yourself. And I know you can do it. So please, just sit, reflect, and think about your future. Because only you and you alone can retell your story, can rewrite your story, and can rewrite your destiny. No one else can do it. But as long as you surround yourself with the right people and believe in yourself and find the right people to support that vision that you have. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't have the right support around me. So from all of you, thank you so much for coming. Thank you very much for tuning as well. I know we will be having this discussion again. Because it's a topic, I know we will talk about it, but we are also taking action.
That's the main
And if
thing.
anyone reaches out to you guys, please extend a helping hand in whatever way that you can.
Absolutely.
You know, and that is what we are all here for. So until next time, thank you so much for coming, and thank you
you.
for tuning in, and God bless.
God bless.
Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.